Thank you. While many people locally and nationally have expressed shock and surprise at the domestic terrorism on display this weekend in Charlottesville, Virginia, we view them as merely another example of the white supremacist ideology that has plagued this country since its founding. Generation after generation, the best of our ancestors, Black, Latino, Indigenous, and white, have challenged various forms of white supremacist violence. This resistance has ranged from nonviolent peaceful protests to radical self-defense. We can choose how we want to fight, but fight we must. The problem is this. Over the last decade, white supremacy in America has simply been reawakened and emboldened. It was there the whole time. The election of the first black president, followed by the election of an openly racist and misogynist commander-in-chief, merely set the stage for what we saw this weekend. I can honestly say that what I saw on Friday night and Saturday was not a surprise. As a radical educator, I insist that social and historical contexts are relevant. During that same 10-year period, organizations like the Southern Poverty Law Center have reported the rapid increase of membership in right-wing extremist groups, while the FBI itself has admitted that law enforcement on the local, state, and national levels have been thoroughly infiltrated by right-wing extremists. This is the realistic environment in which we must conduct our work. We in the MAPSO Freedom School understand that if we truly want to move beyond conversations, if this community truly wants to stop starting over and move forward towards effective social change, we must not only make sure that our children learn this history of white supremacy, but we must accept the fact that such attitudes exist right here in our own backyard. It is time to lift the veil. It is time to lift the veil. We have to understand that the racists who organized the events in Charlottesville did not just fall from the sky. They did not just appear from nowhere. In many instances, they come from families and communities that have never cared about the lives of blacks and Jews in this country. They may be young, but understand they come from a culture and a history that continues to deny our humanity. We have seen this same hatred rear its head in our two communities. Over the last 2 years, there have been multiple overt and covert displays of racism and anti-Semitism in our own school districts, from the drawing of swastikas to the posting of pictures in blackface. When the family and school fails to teach responsibly about the white supremacist mindset that founded and pervades this country, the door remains open for revisionist history that marginalizes people of color in our struggle for justice. Ideas like equity and social justice become a zero-sum game when white people increasingly conclude that any such efforts means they lose and the others win. Over the next few weeks, many of us, myself included, are preparing to send our children off to some of the nation's first institutions of higher learning. From the Ivy League schools up north, such as Harvard, Yale, Brown, and Columbia, to southern schools like Virginia and the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, to schools in New Jersey and nearby PA like Princeton, Rutgers, and UPenn. They were all founded and maintained with an integral relationship to the slave economy. Our young people, many of our young people from this community, get to these institutions, and as their political consciousness is developing, they are surrounded by dormitories, libraries, science labs, and student unions that are named after the very slave owners and racists who committed genocide against the Native Americans and enslaved our people. Understand how insidious white supremacy operates. Because as our young people gain consciousness, the very idea of changing the names of some of these buildings is an attack on the core of white supremacists in this country. The right has a right to its views, and justice-minded people have a right to oppose them. We will not be deterred by distractions on free speech. The Maplewood Freedom School and the people of South Orange, Maplewood are not opposed to political ideas and free speech, but we are opposed to miseducation. We are opposed to neo-slavery. We are opposed to anti-Semitism. We are opposed to police brutality. We are opposed to murder and mass incarceration. We are opposed to everything that white supremacy has tried to normalize in America. All power to the people.